25. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, a debate is raging as to whether men should be allowed to work in nurseries. Also, we'll be asking what scrapping jury trials and bringing in facial recognition says about the state of liberty in the UK. Puberty blocker trials are back. What are the implications for children's safety? We have Andrew Doyle tuning in from America, also about the revelations on the new WPATH files that have been released, and later we'll be looking at subjects such as alleged overuse of the term far right and the plight of free speech at our universities. And we've got comedians answering some crazy culture developments from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Josh. Good evening to you. 7 o'clock here in the GB newsroom. A 31-year-old man's been arrested after pepper spray was used in an attempted robbery at a Heathrow Airport car park. Armed officers were called to Terminal 3 at 8 o'clock this morning following reports of multiple people being assaulted. Police say a woman was robbed of her suitcase by 4 men who sprayed the substance in her direction, with those directly involved known to each other. 21 people, including a 3-year-old girl, were treated at the scene, with 5 taken to hospital. Passengers faced delays and difficulties accessing the airport, with disruption to train and tube services, but most of that has now been cleared. Young unemployed people could have their benefits cut if they don't take up job offers as part of a new government scheme. Around 350,000 work and training places in construction, care and hospitality will be made available from April, backed by funding announced in the budget. However, the Work and Pensions Secretary, Pat McFadden, says there will be sanctions for claimants who do not engage. The Prime Minister says his former deputy, Angela Rayner, will return to the Cabinet. Ms Rayner resigned in September after she was found to have underpaid stamp duty on a flat in Hove. Sir Keir Starmer says the former housing minister is hugely talented and remains a major voice in the Labour movement, indicating misogyny played a part in the level of criticism she faced. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, though, says Ms Rayner's return should be on the condition she pays back the £40,000 of property taxes she avoided. The Kremlin says radical changes are needed for Donald Trump's peace plan for Ukraine, despite the US suggesting a deal is really close. US envoy Keith Kellogg says Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and the future of the Donbass are the two outstanding issues, although Europe and Ukraine have ruled out territorial concessions to Russia. Sir Keir Starmer is set to host Volodymyr Zelensky and the leaders of France and Germany at Downing Street tomorrow. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's eldest son has urged Europe to come up with a better plan, saying Americans have no appetite to finance the conflict. He was asked at a Middle East conference if the US president is preparing to walk away from the peace process.
I think he may. What's good about my father and what's unique about my father is you don't know what he's going to do. The fact that he's not predictable, he's not following the playbook of every clown who's, again, been a bureaucrat for decades, you don't know. And so that forces everyone to actually deal in an intellectually honest capacity, which has not happened in far too long.
Omid, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
British driver Lando Norris has won his first Formula One world title at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Norris came third at the season-ending race to finish 2 points clear of Max Verstappen, who won the race. Norris began the day with a 12-point lead, so he knew he just needed to finish on the podium to clinch the championship for McLaren, and he duly did so ahead of teammate Oscar Piastri as well, Norris becoming the 11th Briton to win the driver's title. Those are the headlines from the GB Newsroom. I'll be back with more at 8.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across a spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics and do our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. This week, a Telegraph column by Julie Bindel, if you won't like that, ignited a fierce row online after proposing that men should be barred from working in nurseries. The piece follows several shocking abuse cases involving male staff and argues that safeguarding must come before concerns about discrimination. It cites official figures showing the vast majority of child sex abuse offenders are men, but some say a blanket ban is unfair, inflammatory and ignores the need for tougher vetting rather than excluding male workers altogether. Well, it's an interesting debate, and to discuss this issue, I'm now joined by the director of the education charity World Right, Sari Dingle, and writer and women's rights activist Jean Hatchett. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This time is here. Now, we communicated earlier. It felt like you had a very clear idea, and I imagine working in a charity with children, that men should be involved, even in nurseries?
Absolutely. I actually think the idea of banning men is ludicrous. And, you know, you're more or less saying that men can't bring up children. And what does that say to the millions of dads in this country or elsewhere that you're all just one step away from being a paedophile, which we know is ludicrous. And, of course, that's not to underestimate the horror and how repugnant we should be at these recent assaults on children within nurseries. That's horrific, and we should look at, you know, what was going on in those nurseries that you know, DBS checks, the vetting and barring scheme, which I've always thought was totally inadequate because it undermines our capacity to make judgments and to challenge people we think are a little bit dodgy because, oh, it's all right, it's got a piece of paper. I've always thought that was dodgy. But I think in general, this is both very anti-men and saying that all men are potentially, you know, horror stories, and it's anti-women because it's saying only women can be domestic slaves, and we're back to caring, breeding, and that's only we can do that. And don't we want men to be paediatricians and doctors and primary school teachers and nursery workers and in every other field of bringing up kids?
OK, well, I mean, Jean, we're talking specifically about nursery workers. There's a slightly different argument, I think, for doctors and certainly for primary school. But nursery workers, do you think that men should be trusted in an environment, or do you think this actually is a comment on men, or is it just specifically sex offenders?
It's not a comment on men, it's a comment on risk. And I think, you know, when you've got 92% of child sexual offenders, and that's a high level of offending, are male. and that is contact offending. So that's the most serious forms of offending. And 45% of those are on children under 10, then we're not looking within a family environment. We're talking about something entirely different. We're talking about a childcare setting where the most horrific offences, those people committing those offences are going to seek an environment where it is more possible for them to do it. And I think that is what's happened. I think, you know, some of these awful offenders like Thomas Waller, for example, he was only 17 when he committed offences. He committed the offences against 2 children, aged 3, within 2 days of his appointment for a summer appointment. So, yes, I agree with Sarah in some ways that, you know, there's not enough rigorous vetting. Processes could be, you know, different, but that would apply to women, you know. And for men, I think the safest thing until the level of risk of child sexual offending is 0, ideally, then a setting where you've got the most vulnerable victims who cannot speak, who are silent, who are vulnerable, who are frightened, then you have to exclude that risk. So it's not about who's a better provider of that service. It's about, you know, it's not man against woman. It's about the level of risk of a man in that environment is too high. It's like any other risk you would assess in any kind of setting.
I mean, the cases we've read about this week and in the past are horrific, and when you are reading them, you do wonder whether it's worth the risk of allowing men, even though, yes, most men would not be a danger, but is it worth the safeguarding risk to allow men into this environment?
Well, I don't think most men, 99.9% of men, are a risk to children.
Think so.
No, exactly. And you said earlier your day job is caring. You know, that's real for most people. So why is it that suddenly, you know, you take them out of the family situation and into a nursery care situation, and they're a risk?
Well, I think the thing is that there is evidence that men who are applying for these jobs are more likely.
Yes, but then surely what that means is by shining a light on these things, and they are rare, we make it more difficult for some sick individuals, the rare minority of sick individuals who do have weird, you know, paedophile tendencies to get to work in these places. And we fortify staff, male and female, who work in these places to speak up and challenge and question things they think are dodgy. So you look at some of the ideas and policies that are put forward by, you know, some of the safeguarding outfits, and they're quite sensible. You know, having public spaces where there's nappy changing.
But I think the problem is that even though these policies may exist, is that in reality they haven't been followed. So for something like changing nappies in public, there were cases of men who were breaking the rules to go off, and they weren't being challenged. So, Jean, it's a nice idea that we have these things, that we have films you know, there are cameras everywhere, but the reality is that these rules can be broken, and worse than that, I read this idea that because people are scared of approaching a man in that situation and saying, you know what, there could be something dodgy here, actually it's more likely that they might get away with it, the fear of discrimination.
I think that's, you know, that's an accurate point. I think Julie Bindel made that point as well. That, you know, the fear of the encouraging men to be more involved, and so that there is more equality, this desire for equality, is actually fueling the opportunity given to these very dangerous individuals to infiltrate care situations and other situations where they're dealing with very young children. You've got an environment now as well that's, you know, exacerbated in lots of ways by an extreme porn environment. You cannot exclude that from having an influence on individuals who are already, you know, probably criminally inclined in a child sexual abusing way. But they are exposed at younger and younger ages. So if you've got a Thomas Waller that gets to 17 and sees there is no boundary for him between abusing a child, then, you know, we've got to look at the entire landscape of why these individuals are seeking out children to abuse. And so until all of those risks are tackled, until all of those contributing factors are tackled, men have to be excluded. And I think men know other men. And a lot of men who would be bringing their child to a childcare situation and were shown a Thomas Waller, right, OK, who's going to look after my 3-year-old baby? This young man over here he's 17. Look, most men would say, I don't think they're having their hands on my baby. You know, the reality is that men wouldn't want that either. And I know that, you know, it would be lovely if we've got an environment where everybody can do every job. That's an ideal, OK? Women want to do the jobs men can do and men want to, you know, this is great. This is an ideal of equality. But doing a job is not the same as doing harm. And I think that's the very big difference here.
Yeah, there is this idea, people who are saying, like, no men should be working in these environments, is because there is a positive role model, there's a positive influence that men can bring in those spaces. But do you think that they could get them elsewhere? Like, working in a primary school, I think men absolutely, and maybe more men should be working in that environment. But just focusing specifically on nurseries, is it worth it, though? When there can be men...
Josh, this is not real. You know, if we understand that men are completely capable of bringing up kids in the home, that men can be paediatricians, men can be doctors, men can be primary school teachers, yet in a nursery they are peculiarly, you know, paedophilia in there and sexualising children. I profoundly disagree. This is a very toxic attitude to men and demeaning of men. And Jean might well be right. A father comes along, doesn't like the look of a teenager who's had a perfunctory training, you know, knows nothing about child development and is being given too much responsibility. As a parent, I would say you complain, and one of the main things we need to ensure that nurseries do is not to blame parents for moaning, but to listen to them and to do all the things that actually make parents feel more you know, less concerned about their child's well-being. But in general, I think you cannot run life based on this hysterical assessment of risk because of two nutcase cases that are horrific that we've seen in the last month.
I think there are many more cases historically. But I just want to say that when it comes to nurseries, they're a different environment. Like, me changing my own child's nappy is going to be a much lower risk. Primary schools, you're not going to be having necessarily people changing nappies. Doctors, you've got nurses there, and also that's, you know, this is a very specific environment where you have children left for the full day in arguably vulnerable situations, and also very, very young children as well. So I don't know...
Well, have them in twos. You don't have to leave people alone. And if you make it clear to nursery staff that the world is watching because of what has happened and make them understand, look, this is what has happened, so of course suspicion will be cast on nursery workers. But so have people in twos. There is not a problem in getting round and overcoming the occasional lunatic. They are going to appear in all walks of life. We don't run life on that basis. And it is demeaning of the need for great childcare and men to play a role in it by saying they must be banned from nurseries. It's crazy.
The easiest way to undermine the risk that we're currently presented with a number of child sexual offenders who are committing these offences, so the ideal doesn't apply. Until the risk is removed, men shouldn't be there.
That's an interesting thing. I used to feel exactly the same as you, and I get very angry and like, this is not fair towards men. And now I've got 5 kids. I'm like, no, I believe exactly what Gina's saying. Anyway, thank you so much. Big round of applause, please, for Sarah Dingle and for Jean Alexis. So we have another import in a second. We're going to be taking questions from our audience. Stay tuned. And then we've got Andrew Doyle coming up as well. See you in a couple of minutes.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to We're going to get some questions now from our audience. And by the way, welcome to our two comedians. Let's have a big round of applause. Archie Manners, Kerry Marks.
Very kind. We haven't done anything yet. We just sat down. Very nice to be applauded for doing absolutely nothing. Thank you.
No, that's my favourite applause.
I've done nothing. I walked from over here to here, and you could, not you, but most of us could have done that.
I like the free applause at the beginning.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's see if they applaud.
More, please.
Go into the interval. Right. We're going to get our first question from Jonathan.
Are West Midlands Police having a good week?
Are West Midlands Police having a good week? West Midlands Police Chief Mike O'Hara apologised for falsely claiming MPs backed Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. He told the MPs that some intelligence cited was inaccurate or AI generated, and also, I don't know if you saw this, but he was basically said that the local Jewish community, he met up with them and they supported the Maccabi Tel Aviv ban, and actually it turns out that they actually were very much against it. Did you see this story today?
Yes, I actually read it a couple of days, today, and yeah, I think it's appalling. The whole thing is wrong, because they were saying about when they put the ban in that they were worried about violence from the Maccabi fans, which itself turned out to be a false story. But I think apparently there was a Swiss team came over not long after, and I think also played Aston Villa, the young boys or something.
Young boys, yeah.
And they are known for fan violence. There was no ban on that at all.
And there was violence during the match.
Exactly.
And they were punching the police.
Really?
Yeah.
So the whole thing smacks of being anti-Semitic to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the argument is that there could well have been violence, Kerry, but it was most likely it would have been from the local community towards the Jewish football fans, and actually it wasn't really about the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans at all. But the police being caught out here. Now, they're saying it was a misunderstanding. It seemed like, from watching this Home Affairs Committee give evidence, that it seemed like a lie. But they're saying, oh, no, we made a mistake. Sorry.
It seemed like lies on top of lies with excuses for the lies. And it's like Hamas have taught them how to dig a hole. And they've managed a really deep one, you know. One day archaeologists are going to find this hole and think there was a police who died from hubris. It's everything they've said, but it's hard to even know where to start, because the original report turned out to be completely wrong. And they claim that the report came from a consultation with the Dutch police, and the Dutch police don't know anything about it, and in actual fact said the opposite. The court cases in Amsterdam and the mayor of Amsterdam all say the opposite of what they're saying. And then it turned out they had someone who was ex-affiliated with Hezbollah who helped them with the report, and then it turned out they then claimed there was a football match where the Maccabi fans behaved badly that didn't even happen, and then they were accused of consulting AI, which they claimed didn't happen, but all the AI bots are all going, yep, sounds like us. You know, that was definitely the kind of thing we would do. An AI hallucination. And then they made that worse by saying that that it actually came from this is their words, scraping social media, which in an age where social media is just this hell pit of misinformation, where we look for official bodies for actual good information, they're taking their information by their own claim from that. And then they claim the Jewish community helped them, which is a bit like saying that vegans were the ones who wanted the meat feast. So this is all nonsense, yeah.
This is not West Midlands Police finest.
No, but it never is it? I mean, when have they ever had a good week, these police forces? I love the fact they're being tricked by AI. I think that's absolutely hysterical, that actual police forces are now being duped by AI. I think Lucy Connolly should have said, I'm sorry, I didn't write that tweet, it was AI.
Yeah.
It seems to me completely mad.
We're just going to blame everything on AI now.
Yeah, the whole of the future is Elon Musk and AI. You don't have to worry about anything, it's going to be lovely.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, I'm not the right person to talk to about football, I'll be honest. I hate it, I'd ban it, but...
Or Jews.
I would not ban Jews, to be clear.
Good. A spokesperson for West Midlands Police said it was never the intention of the officer to imply that there were members of the Jewish community who had explicitly expressed support for the exclusion of Maccabee fans.
You have to read that out, don't
Our
you?
next question, that was AI. Our next question is from Jeff.
Bonsoir.
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 How you say in French, baguette in my trousers?
That was a wonderful Italian accent.
Oggi si deve parlare tutte le lingue, no?
Oui.
Margarita.
So, yes, how do you say French baguette in my trousers? Miss France 2026 has banned flirtatious and sexist expressions, introduced chaperones, swimsuit choice and restricted photos to modernise the pageant, sparking criticism from some former winners and media figures.
This is mad.
Miss France, surely the whole joy of is the silly innuendo.
It's the silliness of it, isn't it? Yeah, a bit like Eurovision, you know, it's all potty, really, but quite fun to watch.
Do these people think they're talented? I mean, all they do, the entire purpose of it is about the way they look, and therefore the jokes around it. Like, they didn't do anything to succeed at a pageant, they were just born that way.
No, they want world peace.
Oh, sorry, that too, yeah, obviously. But it does seem completely crazy. Although I never thought I'd hear a man called Jeff ask about his baguette in his trousers, so that's a new one for me. I'm very, very pleased with that. That's a first for me, so that's something.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking away, surely, the fun. I mean, the whole... If you're going to start taking sexism out of beauty pageants, then just cancel the beauty pageant.
What's left, really? I've never watched a beauty pageant.
You've been in one as a contestant,
those ones, of course.
With your looks, I imagine you...
And I won a few, actually, but I think it was the swimsuit part that got it.
Rear of the year over there.
No, I don't like the incessant smiling. I don't trust that. I always think if a woman smiles for more than a few seconds, then it looks like a cry for help. But I don't. You know, I'm kind of with them on this one. I think I don't like innuendos. I think they're just rubbish jokes, right? Most innuendos, they need a horn sound and a wink to make them funny, and you just go, well, that's obviously not comedy. It's a comedy that's died.
Julian Clare is pretty funny, and he's like complete innuendo.
Yeah, in his day maybe.
The article had some pretty funny ones. It said they were talking about someone who was, should we say, well endowed. And they said the French expression is they've got a balcony.
Yes.
That's relatively amusing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Of course, a balcony.
Go and have a laugh.
Fair enough. Our next question is from the very well-endowed Sean. Sorry, well-endowed.
Well, I'm glad you think so, I must say. But anyway, this question is, does Till Death Us Do Part involve a sex change?
Yeah, does death part include a sex change? Well, an Irish court annulled a marriage after the husband said he was unaware his spouse planned to transition, ruling there was no fully informed consent. Have you been married before?
Twice and divorced twice.
And
neither time was to do with a sex change, I can tell you that much. But no, this sounds like a very Irish story, this one. Not something I've come across, and certainly not something I would want to come across.
It would be a good Father Ted episode.
Well, the partner lied, right? It was basically a bait and switch with genitals. And I think most heterosexual men on a honeymoon morning don't really want to wake up with something rubbing their back and the person whispering in their ear, surprise.
This show's become filthy.
You know,
What's happening?
Well, no, that's what the story is.
Jeff's baguette, and you're rubbing people's backs.
I'm sorry if I'm dealing with the actual story.
Gosh, Howie, what's happened to Free Speech Nation? We used to talk about, you know...
No one wants a plot twist in a marriage at that point, is what I'm saying.
I'm pretty sure my father will support this on the grounds that he's got 5 or 6 other things he now doesn't like about my mother and would think that's legitimate grounds for divorce. So I think it's going to open.
Okay.
You can now go, I'm sorry, love, you've put on weight. Bye-bye. And that's good.
That's it. So if your mum rocks up with a...
She's watching this.
Rock up.
I'll just say, in this day and age, I'm actually surprised the judge found in the guy's favour. I would have thought, with everything going on around us, the judge would have said, sorry, you've got to deal with it, here's some lube and modernise.
No, I'm surprised that he wasn't sent to prison for being a bigot.
Which prison?
Our final question for the moment is from Addy.
Always wanted to know, Josh, are Christmas jumpers offensive?
Yeah, Christmas jumpers offensive. HSBC has banned staff from wearing Christmas jumpers in its branches, citing sensitivity to customers, but allows festive team events and decorations there. So you're wearing your Christmas Marks and Spencer top there.
First court appearance suit.
It's good that you got out of prison. What do you think? Are you offended by Christmas jumpers?
Yeah, completely. The colours, the design, of course. But on a serious side, actually, it's quite offensive to be offended, because you're expecting Christmas certain things, you know, the tacky decorations, the tacky colours, and the Christmas is one of them. I mean, fine. You're expecting it, it's part of the culture, and it's quite easy to to start erasing Christianity in this country, and that's really easy to do. Try to do something else with some other religion, screaming.
True, but most Christmas jumpers don't reflect Christianity. I very rarely see one with a cross or with the birth of the Virgin Mary giving birth is not usually on a jumper, although it would be amusing.
How about when Jesus built a snowman?
Well, famously in Nazareth, it was, covered in snow, wasn't it? So chilly. I agree with you. I just think they're naff. I ban them on grounds like
imagining at Coots, they don't wear Christmas jumpers.
No, my bank doesn't at Coots. Is it HSBC? I don't go there. No.
I agree with both points you made, you know, because, I think they're naff. They are naff, aren't they? I did a gig the other day, just a few days ago, and the whole audience were wearing Christmas jumpers. It was like performing to an advent calendar. It was like, some people look like they lost a bet, and other people look like they were the bet. So I don't really like them. But the bank have said, and I also agree with your other point, because I find offensive generally offensive. People getting offended all over the place. It kind of makes things.
Has anyone ever in the history of humankind been offended by a Christmas jumper? I mean, this is some. I was about to use a rude word.
Yes,
this is some clown in HSBC going, we better do this to make someone happy. But who are they making happy?
But it's not to make happy. They're saying because poor people might be offended going into the bank. But what will offend poor or upset poor people?
Poor people don't go to banks by definition.
It's the bank itself. And the banking crisis was done by men in suits. It wasn't blameable on the jumpers. So yes, it's very silly.
Will you wear a Christmas jumper for your Christmas special? Can we commit now on air that we're going to put you in a really naff
with
Christmas jumper?
Jumpers.
How about an HSBC jumper?
OK, there is a RR here. So, HSB says, we are encouraging colleagues to celebrate Christmas in branches. However, it's important to also remember that branches are spaces where customers receive a wide range of specialist services that require professionalism and...
Boring.
Next on Free Speech Nation, Britain under watch. Facial recognition cameras could soon scan everyone, and digital ID cards may put your privacy at risk. Are we headed for a surveillance state? See you in 2 minutes.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's still pretty unsettled in the eastern Mediterranean over the next few days. There will be some heavy showers and thunderstorms around too. But across Iberia and actually most of the Canary Islands and Madeira, it's largely fine, and there'll be plenty of sunshine on Monday. Just a few showers for northwestern parts of Spain and Portugal. Sunny for most of Italy too, but we run into more in the way of showers and stronger winds pushing down across parts of Greece and into Turkey. But overall, over the next few days, there's lots of sunshine to be enjoyed, and it will feel fairly warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, a very good evening to you. Hope you've managed to have a lovely weekend, although I'm sure many of us probably retreated to indoor activities at some points today. We've been seeing rain sweeping its way across the UK. It is continuing its journey north-eastwards, heading towards the Northern Isle, so quite a wet evening to come here, but there will be some clearer spells arriving behind that. Another band of showers, though, sweeping their way in from the west. These could be quite heavy with some hail and thunder in the mixture. Underneath all of that, though, it will be a fairly mild night, some of us even holding up in double-digit figures. But for parts of northeastern Scotland, where we have some clearer skies overnight, we may just drop down towards low single figures, maybe just about freezing in some very sheltered rural valleys. We could still see a few rumbles of thunder on that system as it continues through across Monday morning, so do be aware when you are travelling to work. But there will be some brighter, drier intervals moving in behind that as well. Potentially, though, a few outbreaks of rain still lingering for some areas of England and Wales, and generally the cloud will tend to build from the south as we move throughout the day, any of that sunshine turning hazier and generally those skies much greyer as we head towards the end of the day. We do hold on to a fairly notable breeze across many areas as well, but temperatures still a touch above average for the time of year. They'll be ranging between 8 and 9 degrees Celsius in the north, 13 and 14 further south. Overnight, though, into Tuesday, our attention will increasingly turn to an area of low pressure that is going to move in from the southwest. This has the potential to bring much more disruption with its quite heavy pulses of rain swinging their way through and some very strong winds, and there are wind and rain warnings issued for parts of Wales, southwest England as well as northwestern England throughout the day on Tuesday. Another wind warning comes into force across the northwest of Scotland for the second half of Tuesday and into Wednesday. There could well be gales, severe gales around at times. Flooding disruption is possible at times, so do stay up to date with the forecast on that.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Britain is on the brink of a surveillance surge. The government plans to expand live facial recognition cameras across town centres, enrolling passport photos into a national database. Some warn ordinary citizens could be misidentified for crimes, while safety is cited to justify intrusive monitoring. With mandatory digital ID cards also looming, privacy experts fear Britain is hurtling towards a society where everyone is watched and democracy takes a back seat. I'm now joined by the director of Big Brother Watch, Silky Carlo. Silky, welcome to the show. We already somewhat live in a surveillance state anyway, but the difference here is we're talking about live facial recognition. If you could just quickly explain that.
Yeah, so already we have millions of surveillance cameras in this country. I mean, actually, in proportion to the population, we are as surveilled as China already. Live facial recognition puts those cameras on steroids, basically, because it means that not only are cameras watching you, but they're identifying you in real time. So there is software that's working behind the lens that checks your face against watch lists and databases, and then the authorities can decide to come and speak to you or take a note that you were there at this time. It is the kind of thing that actually we don't really see in a democratic world at all. It's rarely seen outside of China. But yet this government is planning to roll it out up and down the country, and we're trying to stop them.
Because what people who are for it would say, including the government, would say, well, if you're innocent, you don't really have anything to worry about. So what are the concerns then?
Yeah, we must always be very cautious of the nothing to hide, nothing to fear argument, because, of course, the fact that we've got nothing to hide, that the vast majority of the public are law-abiding, normal citizens, means that we shouldn't have the government in our life every moment of every day and watching what we do. And when they want to do that, we ought to ask questions as to why. I'm like everyone else, I live in London. Like everyone else in the country, I want to be safe from crime, but I also want to be safe from an overbearing authoritarian government, and I don't want to live in a surveillance state. That's why I live in Britain, which is supposed to be a free country. And I'm a bit worried that not only with the live facial recognition cameras, but the mandatory ID cards, two things that are game-changing in this country, that affect each and every one of our rights and our justice system that we never voted for. If these were such attractive policies, put them in the manifesto, put them to the public. But this is undemocratic and it's a massive breach of our rights. And this could end privacy in our country as we know it.
So why do you think the government seems so hell-bent on pushing for this kind of these policies?
I think this government has authoritarian instincts and we're all paying the price. And the question is, you know, how easily can you roll that back? It's really hard. If you introduce a mandatory ID system, which, by the way, is also a facial recognition system, so that's tens of millions of people rolled into a facial recognition system. The government is also saying they're going to turn our passport photos into mugshots for police databases. I mean, that's outrageous. They do have authoritarian instincts, and I think that we're also paying the price with our liberty, our hard-won freedoms that people have fought for centuries. We are paying the price for the incompetence of the government. You know, we do have policing issues, that we have a broken criminal justice system. We have prisons actually shooing the wrong people out of the doors. And then the country, as a result, is being turned into kind of open prison. Well, we'll just put cameras everywhere and try and, you know, track people down. But what we will see also, and this is where it's really a free speech issue, is these cameras will be used at protests. They inevitably will be used against people who are dissenting against the government. And already I know people who are concerned about going to protest because they don't want to end up on these databases.
Yeah, I mean, didn't the government actually use this idea that we can recapture prisoners that we've falsely let out or by mistake let out? It's like, you're right, just deal with this problem at source.
Yeah.
And of course, I guess what is a crime today is different from what could be a crime in the future as well.
Yeah, it's a kind of, you know, do you choose Orwellian or Kafkaesque? But, you know, these are quite dystopian times. And this idea of retrospective facial recognition, which they're also rolling out, means that police and authorities will be able to go back in time and pick out faces from a crowd. Now, if you look at how that's used in China, for instance, which is a bit of a blueprint here, you can look through, with AI, which we just heard about that going wrong with another police force, you can look through hours and hours, months, days or years of footage and pick out images of one person across their lifetime and create a very comprehensive record on them. If you don't have the right controls around facial recognition, that's what you can do. You know, people always said about, you know, in dystopian sci-fi that people would be microchipped. At least you can take a microchip out. With facial recognition, you kind of have this barcode, this permanent identifier that lots of information about you can be stored on, and there's nothing you can do to change it.
Because this might even expand to retailers, because there's a film like Minority Report and Tom Cruise is walking around and everywhere he goes, they're like, hey, you might like this top from Gap, or every moment of our lives being watched, and arguably that leads to control.
It has expanded to retailers, and that's something else that we're fighting and trying to stop. And I'm very worried that we might see in the new year Sainsbury's and Asda's are trialling this at the moment. I'm very worried that they're going to go for a full rollout because the police have just done it. And then I'm really urging people, you know, if you care about this, which you must, please make a noise about it. Please don't just accept this, because you know, nowhere else in Europe does this. Nowhere else in the democratic world does this. This changes the nature of the country that we live in and makes it far less free, and we shouldn't accept it. And, by the way, of course, you get mistakes, misidentifications. And I'm now dealing with several people every single week are finding us and coming to Big Brother Watch saying, I don't know what to do, I've been misidentified, publicly humiliated, accused of being a criminal, I've never done anything wrong. And when private companies use it, they don't even have to give any so-called evidence. They don't have any evidence. It's a kind of data nightmare. They're constructing these watch lists by themselves and operating this technology that is not fail-safe at all.
So isn't it also particularly a problem identifying people from different ethnic minorities, or misidentifying people? And some polling, I think I read this week, said how ethnic minorities in particular would be very suspicious of this technology and would actually keep away from city centres where it's used.
Yeah, and, you know, in a time when we really want to bring the country together, I think that's a really sad thing. But we can also, I think, see why, because police forces in particular are targeting ethnic minority areas with this technology. And there's also the question of who they decide to put on watch lists. The same goes for when we see it used in supermarkets. Security guards, who do they choose to pick out of the general public? People who you want to make sure you're well dressed when you go to the supermarket in the future, because judgments are going to be made about people, and they will be assuming who they want to watch and flag when they enter the store.
That's it. Well, I wear a suit with big pockets.
Yeah.
Which is a big help. So you mentioned what people can do to action. I imagine writing to their MP, your organisation, Big Brother Watch. Are there any? There've been some protests, I think, about digital ID, but is it just an issue that we're all just going to have to fully get on board and start going to protests and start paying attention to?
I think so, or supporting groups like us who are taking action on this. There's no time to waste. Big Brother Watch tomorrow, we're going to be on Parliament Square protesting against the mandatory digital IDs. You can go to no-to-digital-id.co.uk, stopfacialrecognition.org. I'm taking the Metropolitan Police to court in January over facial recognition and hoping that sets a precedent across the country. So, yeah, we're standing up for people's liberties in this country, but we all have to. Now is the time. We're on the brink of a massive, massive change. We've beaten mandatory ID cards and this kind of overbearing surveillance before, and we can do it again.
OK, then, well, big round of applause, please, for Silky Carlo. Big Brother Watch. On digital ID, Sir Keir Starmer has previously said a new digital ID scheme will help combat illegal working while making it easier for the vast majority of people to use vital government services. And on the issue of facial recognition, Policing and Crime Minister Sarah Jones said that though there were legitimate concerns about the technology, she believes a wider rollout could mark the biggest breakthrough in catching criminals. Next on Free Speech Nation, we'll be looking at the return of puberty blocker trials and the latest WPATH revelations from America with Andrew Doyle. See you in 2 minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Newly surfaced videos from US medical conferences appear to suggest some clinicians discussing non-standard gender-affirming procedures for young people, whilst in the UK, NHS England now rules out such approaches, with the 2024 CAS review warning that evidence for medical treatments in minors is limited and called for a cautious, research-led model of care. Well, I'm now joined by comedian and writer and former host of Free Speech Nation, Andrew Doyle. Is that... Hey, look... Oh! Look at this futurist. Are you coming from the future, Andrew?
Like I'm in some sort of, sci-fi chamber or something. It's actually just my bedroom.
Oh,
I
OK.
hate to disappoint you.
Fair enough. So this week, now you covered about a year ago now the release of the WPATH files. I think you were the only show in the only channel in the country to actually comprehensively cover this. And now we have more revelations coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. People should be aware WPATH is the World Professional Association of Transgender Health. This is the world's leading body which advises all sorts of institutions about how to approach individuals, vulnerable individuals, often minors, who are expressing concern about their what we call gender identity. So it's even influenced the NHS here as well, of course. So it's a very, very important body. The WPATH files in March 2024 that were leaked to journalist Michael Schellenberger, written up in a comprehensive report by Mia Hughes, revealed that a lot of these so-called medical professionals are really activists. They are individuals who are fully aware of the potential dangers of this experimental treatment and are pushing a kind of pseudoscience because of their ideology, their belief that if someone, a child, say, goes to a doctor and says, I feel like I'm not a boy, I'm actually a girl. In other words, I have a gendered soul within me that doesn't match my body. They believe that the approach to that is medicalization, drugs, treatment, eventual sterilization. They don't believe that it should be a psychotherapeutic approach, which is, of course, the way that you should go about it. Now, the WPATH files were quite the revelation. The BBC hasn't to this date mentioned them, but it really is the biggest medical scandal of our lifetime, because it shows that all of these medical institutions are conducting this experimental procedures on individuals who cannot give consent. That was the key finding of the WPATH files. The people involved know that many of the patients cannot possibly give informed consent. What's happened this week is that the Free Press has written an article. The Free Press has analysed hundreds of videos of WPATH's conferences where gender clinicians get together to discuss their approach. These videos, they tried to hide these, by the way, but they've been released because of a lawsuit taking place in Alabama. A number of families are suing, saying that there's no evidence for this kind of treatment, on their adolescent children. And so all of these videos have now been released, and it turns out it's worse than we thought. Like I can give you a direct quotation here. So we've actually got, for instance, on a panel on non-binary surgeries, we have an endocrinologist called Leighton Seal, who admits, he says, we are doing procedures here where we don't have outcome data. That's a direct quotation. And then another treatment provider chips in this conference and says, this is a direct quotation, I'm not making this up, I feel like we're all just winging it, and which is okay, you're winging it too, but maybe we can just wing it together. No wonder WPATH didn't want these videos to come out.
Because we are talking here about medical treatment for children. So the idea that doctors are actually just talking about winging it and going along with it is terrifying, right?
Absolutely. And they wouldn't have released this stuff. I mean, there's even reports that they tried to destroy some of this footage. But if it wasn't for the fact that the Alabama state has subpoenaed WPATH and forced these videos out in the open, we wouldn't know about it. And as you say, there are children. Underage children who have undergone mastectomies, double mastectomies, to have the removal of healthy breast tissue in America. We've had children who've been put on dangerous puberty blockers with no, as the CAS review revealed, there's no evidence that these are in any way valid or useful. And so therefore we are endangering children's lives. And the worst thing about it is that the people pushing it are those who proclaim to be experts. WPATH. Let's just remind ourselves, WPATH's Standards of Care version 8, which is often cited as this leading document in expertise on what they call gender affirming care, that document contains a chapter on eunuch identities, and it urges doctors to affirm eunuch identities. In other words, if a patient comes to a doctor and says, I want my genitals removed, then the doctor's meant to say, okay, well, you were born a eunuch, you were meant to be a eunuch, and your body isn't right, so we will fix you by castrating you. That's in this document, which is supposedly an expert document. If you don't believe me, you can check out my interview with Genevieve Gluck, who broke this story. She's a journalist, and I interviewed her on my show in March 2024 when I was breaking this about the WPATH files. And there's some pretty horrific details in that interview, so I'd urge you to look at it.
But there's more horrific details.
Scandal.
Well, there's more horrific details because one of the things that was talked about was someone who wanted to look like a Barbie. That's what they said. They want to look like a Barbie down there. There were also this idea of non-binary surgeries, people requesting to have both sets of genitalia, and this being indulged by the doctors.
Yeah, not only indulged, but actively pushed. I mean, the video you're talking about is a social worker at Oregon Health and Science University's transgender health program. This is an individual called Amy Penkin, who is discussing in this video, in one of these videos that's now come out, is discussing an 18-year-old patient. This is a male patient called Sky, who wants what they call complete genital nullification. What that means is to have genitals completely removed, no sexual feeling, no possibility of a sexual life. This kid had said they wanted, as you said, to look like a Barbie down there. They wanted complete smoothness, nothing, no genitals, nothing like that. A person so young that they cannot possibly comprehend what the long-term implications of that might be. Now, surely, if an 18-year-old is saying that to a doctor should be saying, there's a problem here. We'll introduce you to a psychotherapist. We'll talk about the various problems, what might have made you want to mutilate yourself in this way. But no, the doctors at WPATH are saying, we need to affirm that. We shouldn't question that. This Barbie identity is what this individual wants to be, and we need to find a way to get around it. And, you know, we hear these doctors in this footage effectively lamenting the fact that they don't have the evidence to justify doing this, but they're going to do it anyway. As that treatment provider put it, they're going to wing it. And we're dealing with kids' lives.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew Doyle. I should also say WPATH have not been able to respond. They would argue that they are doing their best to protect children. So that is the end of the first hour on Free Speech Nation. Don't go away. Plenty more to come in the next hour. See you in 2 minutes. Bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, a very good evening to you. Hope you've managed to have a lovely weekend, although I'm sure many of us probably retreated to indoor activities at some points today. We've been seeing rain sweeping its way across the UK. It is continuing its journey north-eastwards, heading towards the Northern Isle, so quite a wet evening to come here, but there will be some clearer spells arriving behind that. Another band of showers, though, sweeping their way in from the west. These could be quite heavy with some hail and thunder in the mixture. Underneath all of that, though, it will be a fairly mild night, some of us even holding up in double-digit figures. But for parts of northeastern Scotland, where we have some clearer skies overnight, we may just drop down towards low single figures, maybe just about freezing in some very sheltered rural valleys. We could still see a few rumbles of thunder on that system as it continues through across Monday morning, so do be aware when you are travelling to work. But there will be some brighter, drier intervals moving in behind that as well. Potentially, there are a few outbreaks of rain still lingering for some areas of England and Wales, and generally the cloud will tend to build from the south as we move throughout the day. Any of that sunshine turning hazier, and generally those skies much greyer as we head towards the end of the day. We do hold on to a fairly notable breeze across many areas as well, but temperatures still a touch above average for the time of year. They'll be ranging between 8 and 9 degrees Celsius in the north, 13 and 14 further south. Overnight, though, into Tuesday, our attention will increasingly turn to an area of low pressure that is going to move in from the southwest. This has the potential to bring much more disruption with its quite heavy pulses of rain swinging their way through and some very strong winds, and there are wind and rain warnings issued for parts of Wales, southwest England as well as northwestern England throughout the day on Tuesday. Another wind warning comes into force across the northwest of Scotland for the second half of Tuesday and into Wednesday. There could well be gales, severe gales around at times. Flooding disruption is possible at times, so do stay up to date with the forecast on that.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, but first we're going to get a news update from Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. 8 o'clock here in the GB Newsroom. A 3-year-old girl is amongst those who needed treatment after 4 men used pepper spray during an attempted robbery at Heathrow Airport. Officers responded to reports that multiple people had been assaulted by a group of men in the multi-storey car park at Terminal 3 this morning. A 31-year-old man remains in custody and inquiries remain ongoing to locate further suspects. 21 people were treated in total, with 5 taken to hospital. Passengers faced delays and difficulties accessing the airport, with disruption to train and tube services. These queues on the Elizabeth line, but most of that has now been cleared. Young unemployed people could have their benefits cut if they don't take up job offers as part of a new government scheme. Around 350,000 work and training places in construction and care and hospitality will be made available from April, backed by funding announced in the budget. However, the Work and Pensions Secretary, Pat McFadden, says there will be sanctions for those claimants who don't engage. Almost 1 million young people are currently not in employment, education or training, and Mr McFadden says they've been let down.
The last thing we want is young people living a life on benefits or not doing anything constructive. So we're coming forward with a package today which we call the Youth Guarantee. It's backed by £800 million of government investment, and that will offer training places to 300,000 or more of those young people. Young people have been neglected. They haven't been offered enough help in the past, and we want to put that right.
Russia's welcomed President Trump's new national security strategy, saying it is largely aligned with Moscow's vision. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov described it as an encouraging change of policy that he hoped would guarantee they could work together for a settlement in Ukraine. Well, the document released on Friday fails to identify Russia as a threat to the US and is highly critical of the EU, claiming Europe is at risk of civilizational erasure. It comes as talks to end the war in Ukraine enter a key phase, with the US suggesting a deal is close, although Moscow says radical changes to the plan are needed. European officials say language used in the strategy document closely resembles that of the Kremlin. Police in Ireland have launched a murder investigation after 2 people were killed in a house fire in County Offaly. A 60-year-old woman and a 4-year-old boy died in the blaze at Castleview Park in Edenderry. Another woman has been treated in hospital. Officers have described the fire, which they understand was started deliberately, as a reckless and callous attack on a family home. Authorities in India are searching the site of a fire of a nightclub in Goa, where at least 25 people were killed overnight. Police initially blamed a gas explosion in a kitchen, but eyewitnesses have reported fireworks being set off during a show. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the victims and their families will be offered compensation. And British driver Lando Norris has won his maiden Formula One world title at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Norris came third at the season-ending race to finish 2 points clear of Max Verstappen, who won the race. Norris began the day 12 points in front, so just needed a finish on the podium to clinch the championship for McLaren. His teammate Oscar Piastri came second on the night and finished third in the standings. Norris, the 11th Briton to win the driver's title. And those are your latest headlines from the GB Newsroom. I'll be back with more at 9.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, lovies like Paloma Faith and Lenny Henry have put their names to a new cause, Together Against the Far Right, with demonstrations planned for March. This new urgency comes after a statement issued by the campaign saying that for the first time we face a far-right party topping the polls. But is the term far-right appropriate when many believe that they have legitimate concerns about illegal migration and a more muscular Islamism that is leaving our social fabric fraying? And aren't people devaluing the term far-right if it is bandied around so liberally? Well, I'm going to discuss this now with the editor for Spite, Tom Slater. Welcome to the show. You big far-right person, you.
Exactly. I'm quaking in my boots, as I'm sure the rest of the nefarious movement. But it's not as if we go to our celebrities, I should say, for informed political analysis. But when you've got a statement like this, which is also backed by a lot of politicians as well, a lot of people in civil society, saying that a far-right party is topping the polls for the first time ever. And, you know, you might have thought you'd slipped into a coma then, like the BNP had made an unlikely comeback. But, of course, they're talking about reform. It's telling that after all these years of people throwing around these labels so liberally and having it blow up in their faces, it's telling that they haven't learned from this, I suppose. Yeah, it's a concern because the term far-right should be... Look, there's a lot of accusations across the board. People say woke is used incorrectly, whether it's one definition or the other. But the point about far-right is there is a singular definition of far-right, and that has been misapplied. To be concerned about borders, unsecure borders, that shouldn't mean that you're now on a par with Hitler. No, exactly. And the thing is, we know what they're doing when they throw around these accusations. The word far-right has been thrown at reform, the word fascism has been thrown at reform, and it's really important that we keep these distinctions very clear, partly because it is an insult to a political party and to its supporters who, whatever else you might say about them, agree with them, disagree with them, the idea that they're on some kind of spectrum or even anywhere closely associated with some of the most reactionary and damaging regimes in history is obviously for the birds. But I think it's also like an insult to historical memory. Like, we know what fascism is. Totalitarian control, worship of war and violence. In the Nazi case, the attempt to exterminate European Jewry. If you genuinely think this is what Nigel Farage has up his sleeve, I think there's no helping you, to be honest. You need a history lesson and probably, lie down on the therapist couch rather than being listened to any way seriously.
Listen, some of those accusations, totalitarianism, could arguably be applied to the far left. Do you think the far left that terminology is misapplied?
Well, I think there is actually a bit of a danger that some people on the right can sometimes throw around kind of accusations of like communism or authoritarianism too easily as well. But I think it's quite clear that these accusations are mainly going in one direction. And I think the core hypocrisy or double standard here is in relation to Islamism, which you've touched upon. Because if there is a movement in society at the moment which is genuinely hell-bent on a form of totalitarianism, which is deeply anti-Semitic, which has inflicted murder upon murder on this country. I mean, Islamism is responsible for 94% of all terror-related deaths in this country since 1999. And yet, this movement, this Together Against the Far Right, the Lovies, the Great and Good, are not interested in talking about it at all. I mean, if we're talking about the genuine far right, and we all know what that is when we see it, proper, racist extremists.
It exists, it's real, and it's bad.
Exactly, and it's growing, but from a very small base. This is not the primary threat that we face in terms of extremism at all. So, even if we weren't talking about the very loose definition, the applying it to reform, smearing people simply because they want to get control of the borders, even if you're just talking about what should be our focus at the moment, the handful of kind of racist bottom feeders who occasionally make themselves known don't seem to me to be the priority, if nothing else.
Well, do you think there's any chance that Together Against the Far Right might go, actually, and we're also against Islamism, and that we consider that far right, and so we're gonna come and march with us as well?
Well, interesting point on that is that one of the signatories to this statement is Kneecap, everyone's favourite Irish rap trio. And this case is still working its way through the courts. I'll be a little bit careful of what I say, but they allegedly said the words "up Hamas" and "up Hezbollah" at one of their London gigs.
Prescribed organisations.
Islamist organisations as well, actual Jew-killing terror armies. So I think it's worse than a blind spot, that, isn't it, when you're throwing around labels so willfully against political opponents. Meanwhile, you're actually allegedly expressing outright support for Islamist terror movements, which tells us about the kind of muddle that a lot of the cultural set have got.
Well, also, I guess it just exposes the hypocrisy from people who sort of push forward and say we're against the far right and don't address any of the hate coming from people within their own ideological camp.
No, exactly. And it's an issue of consistency, obviously, which maybe we shouldn't expect so much of some of the celebrities who've signed up to this. But I think the reason this statement is worth talking about is because this is only just a kind of pure expression of a tendency which exists across the liberal left more broadly, which is to wear out these labels, which is to smear people, which is to also ignore the genuine threats which confront us. So I think that's something that we really have to reckon with. And if you are genuinely concerned about a resurgent racism in society or the threat that might appear one day, then you shouldn't wear out these labels as well. This is one thing that you notice if you pay attention to the handfuls of genuine far-right activists we have in this country. They are really thriving off the fact that this label has been completely degraded. Like, oh, it's far-right, is it? In the same way that Boris Johnson was far-right, or the same way that Nigel Farage is far-right. It's the same old game being played. So we've kind of lent them a sort of invisibility cloak by using these labels too liberally as much as anything else. So yes, it's celebrities rabbiting on in a ridiculous way. That's hardly a news story. But I think it's a broader tendency that we need to correct if we're going to take on this problem.
How do you think we can correct? I mean, obviously, we can point out in shows like this, but these people involved, is there really anything that can be done to point out their hypocrisy, to point out the dangers of overusing these words? And all I can imagine is that when they do have a protest next year, that there might be some people who say, well, we're going to have a counter-protest to that, but of course then it becomes, you're far right, no, you're a fascist, no, you're a fascist.
No, exactly. It's hard to work out. I mean, I think we've all started doing it anyway, so it's not necessarily important advice, but just stop listening to the celebrities, I think it's fair to say. Do we really summon Lenny Henry?
Except for the host of TV shows.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. No, they should be taken very, very seriously. But it's one of those things where I think we've known over the course of the past 10 years that just because someone who's famous, who happens to be on TV, they can criticise or, complain about Brexit or Trump till the cows go home. If anything, it has the opposite effect. It tends to make people feel more vindicated. But I do think that people who know better, like people who are involved in political commentary, people who are academics, people who are actually entrusted to sort of hold forth on issues of politics and whatever, need to do a hell of a lot better at calling out these smear campaigns. As much as anything else, I think in the context of reform, it's so clear that this isn't necessarily even about the far right. It's about democracy. So people vote for Brexit, they're fascists. People vote for the Conservatives because they want to get Brexit done, they're fascists. People vote for reform because they want to kind of finish the job of taking back control over our borders, they're fascists. When they say far right, they just mean democracy at this point. It's an expression of kind of revulsion at the people that you happen to share a country with. So I think calling them out when they misuse these terms is absolutely important, but also recognising the game that's being played, which is a bunch of very privileged people who are affronted by the fact that people in the country disagree with them and are just thrashing around like upset children. We should kind of mock that and ridicule it, I think is probably a good response.
I mean, there's a classist element to it, then.
No, completely. I mean, this is the thing. Kind of alleged anti-racism or alleged anti-fascism is kind of how anti-working class sentiment is now expressed. I thought it was really fascinating, you know, during the Brexit period, the number of cartoons you'd see in left-of-centre publications, basically the kind of caricature of the kind of council estate, Chav being the kind of villain of the piece, the person who has delivered this apparently once brilliant country to hell in a new 1930s just because they said, you know what, we don't like that European superstate. It's so clear now that that what they claim to be is kind of seeing off the sort of new black shirts, what they're really upset about is ordinary people who happen to think differently to them, speak a bit differently to them, and have different priorities, surprise, surprise, because they're not millionaires. And yet that's what a lot of this is about, really, at root, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to be misusing the term far right anytime soon. Of course, it brings to mind, finally, that the meme, which is the sort of where the posts of left-wing have changed over the last years, where pretty much if you don't vote for Greens or your party, whatever they end up being called, then you are now, even you're far right if you're still a Labour supporter.
No, I think that's really worth pointing out, because the extent to which there has been a sort of radicalisation on what we broadly call the political left, these labels aren't always very useful these days, but you know, they're holding to positions that, you know, a previous generation would have found laughable. The idea that men can become women, this was not, you know, accepted doctrinal, you know, left-wing thought until about 5 seconds ago. So they've lost their minds. The ordinary people have remained pretty commonsensical, and that's kind of the story of our times, I think. So, of course, they're going to continue to thrash around and throw insults, but I think, if anything, that's just more proof that they're losing, really.
Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. Tom Slater from Spike. Next on Free Speech Nation, we're going to have our audience questions. That's coming up in 2 minutes. See you in a sec.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So my comedian guests again this evening are Kerry Marks and Archie Manners. Let's do another round of applause. We love it. We love it. We love a good stuff. We're going to go to some more questions from our audience. Our first question is from Mark.
Yeah, good evening. I was just wondering if the scouting movement is looking forward to having a lot more volunteers.
Yeah, the Scouts are about to get some more volunteers. So a girl guiding ambassador resigned after the group barred new transgender members, calling the decision devastating, while girl guiding cited the Equality Act compliance. So this has been a big week for institutions following now the law, as it has been clarified by the Supreme Act. We had girl guiding, we had Women's Institute as well, and also the Labour Conference. They are going to be doing a women's only day. So do you think this is now evidence of these last holdouts kind of going along with the law?
I don't know if it's the last holdouts, but I think we're going to get a lot more of it over the next 6 months or so. And it's going to come to a lot of other different voluntary bodies.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw the report, Kerry, from Girl Guiding. They put out a letter. They have been very seemingly stubborn in the past about this issue, and they sound very reluctantly that they're having to go along with it.
But they're going along with it because it was a Supreme Court ruling, which is what this is about. And for the ambassador of the Girl Scouting movement to take a stance of disobey the Supreme Court, that's one hell of a moral stance, really, isn't it? You know, they just want to sell cookies, not have to storm Parliament. So I think that's what it is. The court made a ruling, and they haven't made a major change. They just basically put up a sign saying Scouts that way.
Well, yeah, the clue is in my name, Girl Guiding, isn't it? I mean,
it's a little bit.
It's not all that complicated.
Yes, girl guiding.
It's not called girl, and people think girl guiding.
Well, of course, the ideology, trans ideology, gender ideology, whatever you want to call it, would say that trans girls
are girls.
Are girls.
So are trans scouts? You get really it gets linguistically mad, doesn't it? I can't keep up.
Yeah, then you've got all the girl guiding chants themselves.
Yes, I suppose you do. And they're gendered as well, aren't they?
I don't know.
What do we want? Cookies? When do you want them? Now.
Yeah. So I think that's also. I think did I read something? Maybe even table tennis has now become.
Has it?
Yeah.
Really?
No, it might be table.
Well, if it's reached table tennis, then that's it now, isn't it?
And then you also have the Labour
conference.
Yeah, the conference that's now going to be women's only. So it's been quite a big week for
women being women.
For women being women, yeah.
Extraordinary. Wow, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, well,
finally.
Well, we've reached out to Girl Guiding. We're still waiting a response.
They don't know whether they're girl guiding or boy guiding, that's the problem. So they're working that out first.
Just not guiding, really.
Guiding. Our next question is from Jeff.
With the baguette.
Evening. So the question I've got is it safe to take your kids to the latest animated series?
Oh, yes. So this is a very interesting question. This is about... Jeff, this is about Zootopia. I think Zootopia 2, which has come out. And I didn't realise this, but have you heard of furries before?
I've heard of it.
You've got a big beard.
I'm more into, like, Finding Nemo and stuff like that. But, like, I've watched Zootopia 1. Yeah. That's great. But I've heard that the new one has a bit of controversy regarding LGBTQ and all that kind of stuff, so...
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know if it's got that, from my understanding of it, because it was a huge hit, the first one. But furries, they dress up like animals.
This is what you do on a Thursday, right?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Josh is Thursday, yeah.
It's totally fine. Play favourite thing. Dress up as an animal.
Yeah.
And
Josh Pussy is his stage name.
It's become a huge hit, and so what they've done for America, I think this film, Zootropolis 2, has become the largest animated opening in ever, and you're just getting cinemas packed with these men, mostly men, but men and women, but it's mostly men, dressed up. And people say that it's a fetish, or it has a sexual element.
Sexual connotations.
So they're all dressed up as what? As furry animals?
As furry animals.
He's a grown-up.
They're all dressed up like Jeff.
What have you come as?
A big, hairy man.
Yeah. There's a lot of beards here, actually. It's quite a collection of beards.
It's a big beard.
I'm the only beardless man on the panel.
Yeah, so you're big fan of...
Love furries. Love them. If I can dress up as a cat, Josh, I'm there, you know.
They've made a fortune out of it, haven't they? Disney have done really well out of this. They've been very clever. They've mixed something that inspires children and adult niche sexual fantasy.
It is a strange fantasy, isn't it?
I know.
Again, I go back to the point this show seems to have got completely sordid since I last watched it.
It's the only film where it's not the children that need supervision.
Yeah, it's very, very old.
There's something that's called yiffing. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, God, what's this? Where's this going?
A fur pile.
They touch each other up and sniff each other
and all of... Yeah.
Do they sniff each other's bottoms like dogs?
Yes, they absolutely do. It's a whole...
And I'd like to know how you know this, Josh. What have you been watching?
What
has Josh been... He's very, very well versed in the details of this kink, isn't he?
I watched Zootropolis, but...
Research, was it, for work? Yeah.
Also, I think
it's an odd mix. It's an odd mix. Like, Mummy, why is the squirrel in the seat next to me rubbing his tail? It's not his tail, darling, and don't feed him. That's what's going on.
Well, there is a serious element to it, because if there are these people who are going along dressed as animals, and there are kids going along as well...
But is that not part of freedom of expression? If you want... I mean, I think you're absolutely nuts, right? But if someone wants to dress as a furry and go to the cinema...
Maybe they should do, like, a 12 o'clock...
Because they're not doing it with their wangers out, right? They're...
I don't know.
Oh, he now claims not to know, ladies and gentlemen. That's where he draws the line.
Talking about also depends on how hairy people are.
We're going to have to go and find out.
Our next question is from Adik.
Hi. Has a new land speed record been achieved for losing your job?
So, yes, has a new land speed record been achieved for losing your job? Jaguar Land Rover's chief designer, Jerry McGovern, was dismissed days after a new CEO took over, ending his 21-year career amid criticism of the brand's woke rebrand. Now, this kicked off last year. I think they brought out that advert. It didn't even feature a car in it. It just had a lot of androgynous people. And it seems like it's possibly been disastrous. It would suggest so. Were you going to buy one?
If I had the money.
Oh, yeah? You like the new design?
Actually, I do like the design. It's very artistic from my perspective. I did actually like the commercial. I like the color. But the problem is for the drivers, don't necessarily want to be outed for their sexuality because it really hints what actually they prefer. And the image not exactly was really along with it.
It just wasn't an advert for a car.
It wasn't.
That was my major problem with it. I watched it and I didn't know what they were trying to sell me. It was just an advert
they were trying to sell Zootropolis too.
Just literally, or one of your Thursday nights.
I don't think the car was a very good advert for the car.
I have no idea about
the car in general. It's like it was supposed to be futuristic. It looked like some kind of Poundland toaster with wheels. It was like what you'd get if you mixed Tesla with a Lego brick, you know, and it had an awful baby. That was it was ugly.
It was like a miss.
It was like if Apple designed a hearse. I think is pretty much what was going on there. It was. Would you drive that thing? I wouldn't.
Well, they
not even if you gave me it for free.
They haven't.
Are you pitching for them to give you one now? That's a real appalling beg there.
Prove me wrong.
You seem like a Jag man. I could see.
I don't have a Jag. No, I have a Mercedes. I'm all Deutsch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the future's German on that one.
Efficiency. I see you in
efficiency, and they know how to make an advert. Those Germans.
Yeah. They put the car in it.
They put the car in it. Which, if I was working in advertising for cars, I'd go, that's a good idea. That's a start, right? Putting a car in it. Yeah. I remember Nigel Farage got very upset by this advert.
And President Trump got very
upset about it. So
everybody did.
The leaders are really on the big issues of the day, aren't they? Which is good. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Honda Jazz, reliable.
That's what you've got, isn't it?
Well, we've got
one more question now, and that is from Jeff.
Will government adverts feature white people?
Will government adverts feature white people? So civil servants must ensure government adverts reflect diverse communities using inclusive imagery and outreach. After reviews found some groups, weirdly, they found them actually that they were overrepresented already. So this backs on, Jeff, I don't think we had a story a few months ago now about the adverts were overrepresented, different ethnicities compared to the actual population of the country. It seems like government adverts, there's the same issue, but the government is still putting out reports saying, do more. Do you mind? Like, in terms of... I mean, I'm trying to think what government adverts would appeal to you. Well, check your prostate, for example.
I've done
Josh Howie.
That's been done.
It's been done, yes, and it was lovely meeting you that way.
Yeah.
Isn't the bigger question here, though, why on earth is the government spending tax money on adverts? That's like, I mean, I imagine a huge amount of our tax dollars, it's not awfully American, but being spent on government advertising. Why can't they run public services rather than advertising stuff?
What are they advertising anyway?
Well, that's what I have no idea.
What's there still to advertise?
Well, there's actually an argument that...
We've got everything, we can't afford anything else.
Well, there's an argument that, look, some of these are sort of public outreach programmes, but there's an argument that you could make that actually it's racist to demand ethnic representation, because already there's one story here that was about child development, and it was only 2 out of 5 people were white, which, you know, in an 80% country that's white, it seems to be then suggesting that issues with child development actually seems to predominantly affect people from ethnic minorities. So it can kind of backfire.
I've seen what happened to Sarah Pochin on this issue, and the Reform MP, she got into a lot of trouble, so this feels very...
Yeah, she worded that terribly.
Nice topic for me. I'm just going to sit this one out a bit.
But society is changing, and the average white family now is mostly black. And I, you know, I'm not the same. I wouldn't agree with you here because I like black people, but you know, but it's an obsession with representation and diversity that's gone beyond a tipping point. That's the real thing, isn't it?
You've never seen a furry in a government advert.
Where does it stop? Where do you reach a point where you say that we've achieved it now?
Well, I think that
if you're going to keep
anything that makes white men look bad is definitely over-representation. if it's muggers, then suddenly it's that's the best chance you get of getting an advert. So we've reached out to the Cabinet Office. Here's what they said. There is no set rule requiring visible diversity in campaign material. Well, there you go. That takes that story out. Next on Free Speech Nation, we'll be talking about the state of free speech and universities. You don't want to miss this. It's a really interesting story. See you in 2 minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's still pretty unsettled in the eastern Mediterranean over the next few days. There will be some heavy showers and thunderstorms around too. But across Iberia and actually most of the Canary Islands and Madeira, it's largely fine, and there'll be plenty of sunshine on Monday. Just a few showers for northwestern parts of Spain and Portugal. Sunny for most of Italy too, but we run into more in the way of showers and stronger winds pushing down across parts of Greece and into Turkey. But overall, over the next few days, there's lots of sunshine to be enjoyed, and it will feel fairly warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, a very good evening to you. Hope you've managed to have a lovely weekend, although I'm sure many of us probably retreated to indoor activities at some points today. We've been seeing rain sweeping its way across the UK. It is continuing its journey north-eastwards, heading towards the Northern Isles, so quite a wet evening to come here, but there will be some clearer spells arriving behind that. Another band of showers, though, sweeping their way in from the west. These could be quite heavy with some hail and thunder in the mixture. Underneath all of that, though, it will be a fairly mild night, some of us even holding up in double-digit figures. But for parts of northeastern Scotland, where we have some clearer skies overnight, we may just drop down towards low single figures, maybe just about freezing in some very sheltered rural valleys. We could still see a few rumbles of thunder on that system as it continues through across Monday morning, so do be aware when you are travelling to work. But there will be some brighter, drier intervals moving in behind that as well. Potentially, though, a few outbreaks of rain still lingering for some areas of England and Wales, and generally the cloud will tend to build from the south as we move throughout the day, any of that sunshine turning hazier and generally those skies much greyer as we head towards the end of the day. We do hold on to a fairly notable breeze across many areas as well, but temperatures still a touch above average for the time of year. They'll be ranging between 8 and 9 degrees Celsius in the north, 13 and 14 further south. Overnight, though, into Tuesday, our attention will increasingly turn to an area of low pressure that is going to move in from the southwest. This has the potential to bring much more disruption with its quite heavy pulses of rain swinging their way through and some very strong winds, and there are wind and rain warnings issued for parts of Wales, southwest England as well as northwestern England throughout the day on Tuesday. Another wind warning comes into force across the northwest of Scotland for the second half of Tuesday and into Wednesday. There could well be gales, severe gales around at times. Flooding disruption is possible at times, so do stay up to date with the forecast on that.
you want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. The University of Greenwich has been accused of breaching the Freedom of Speech Act after it was revealed that various job posts required applicants to adhere to and promote the institution's equality, diversity and inclusion policies. This comes on the back of a report this week that EDI and the money that's spent on promoting it also might have a converse impact on free speech. So we are here to discuss this, and we are very lucky to be joined by a reader in financial mathematics at KCL and founder of the London University's Council for Academic Freedom, Dr. John Armstrong. Hello, John.
Hi.
Or Doctor, or Smart. Well, John, you were here a couple of months ago. Actually, you came to talk about, because I believe the London Maths Society had brought in some policies, and because not necessarily coming on the show, but because you were fighting back against it, they have now dropped all of that. So that's a little sideway way. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On that. So this is not your organisation who've come up with this report, but it is interesting. I think it's the Alumni for Free Speech. And it basically says that if you spend more money on EDI, there's a correlation between free speech at that university going down, essentially.
Yep, that's absolutely right. So I actually, I did a little bit of stats on the report for them.
Oh, OK. Yeah, sexy stats.
Yeah, so it's all statistically significant. And anyway, what it shows you is that the more EDI people you hire, the more likely you are to put unlawful things in your job advert. So, for example, it might be asking you to commit to certain EDI principles as part of your job, and that's unlawful because it goes against freedom of speech and academic
Which I think's
freedom.
happened in, like, the University of Greenwich.
Exactly. And then, again, well, both of the things that they were looking at happened. So the other thing that can happen is they can say, so in your job application, you're meant to make a declaration of how you feel. And the other thing they looked at was in your job itself, are you asked to promote these EDI things? And so Greenwich is a great example of somewhere where that's happened. So they've shown in that case, all of these things are happening, and they're happening in every job advert at Greenwich. So people are asked to declare their support for Greenwich's EDI policy, and they're asked in their job to promote Greenwich's EDI policy. There's a really big problem with this, which is that, well, in my view, Greenwich's EDI policy is unlawful. So I took a look at their trans policy, and their trans policy, Quelle Surprise, says you can self-identify what toilets you want to use. So Greenwich is saying, if you want a job at Greenwich, you've got to support breaking the law. And when you come here, you've got to help promote our policy of breaking the law. Now, in my view, that's quite wild.
And also, it's not just trans. It might be like critical race theory, which is a contested, well, I don't know if it's contested belief, but it's certainly a contested theory. The idea is that if you want to get a job, you have to promote that. There are valid reasons for not agreeing with all parts of critical race theory.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think the worst aspect of it is saying, break the law, but the other way in which it's unlawful is just asking people to hold certain opinions. So something like critical race theory is a really wild theory that many academics simply don't support. I certainly don't support it. And of course, what we want is universities to be institutions where people can hold a plurality of views. And if you insist that the only people we hire hold a particular view, well, this is not a good thing for free discussion at the university. And that's, of course, why the new Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act has been... what it's there for is to try and promote diversity. I mean, it's all very ironic because, you know, the purpose of EDI teams is meant to be to encourage diversity, really, but it's doing the exact opposite. The biggest problems that we have on campus at the moment with diversity, everybody knows what they are, is that gender-critical people can't speak, and Jews feel uncomfortable to express their views about Israel and Palestine. And that's being forced upon them by these EDI teams who are just hugely politically biased and try and impose that bias, and it becomes self-perpetuating. So you have the EDI team, they make the job application say you can't get a job here unless you hold certain views, and then you've got people who hold these views that think it's okay to say you've all got to agree with me, and it just accelerates and accelerates.
It affects what the students are going to learn, I guess, and then it becomes a self-perpetuating system. And also this report, what's interesting is it doesn't just prove that the more you spend on EDI, the less free speech. It also proves the less you spend on EDI, the better free speech at that university.
Well, I think...
That's what I read. I'm not as mathy as you, but that was my interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that is not in this report, but another thing that interests me is you could look at the question of, well, how does EDI actually help us with the things that we want to achieve through EDI? And that's something that I've researched in the past. And the main thing that universities use to determine to work on sex equality is this thing called the Athena Swan Scheme. And the Athena Swan Scheme is actually responsible for a lot of the bad things that have happened in universities. It's really promoted gender self-ID within universities, and for a time it required all university departments to promote the idea of gender self-identification. And in Ireland, Athena Swan Ireland, they still require that everybody promotes gender self-identification. So we've got this group requiring gender self-ID throughout, and this is being pushed by the EDI items. Now, but is it effective in its goal of getting rid of sex discrimination? Well, the answer is no, it isn't at all. They give awards. You can get a gold award, a silver award, or a bronze award, or no award at all. And the more women you have in senior management or professorial roles, the lower your award will be. So if you've don't have an Athena Swan Award, you'll have the best representation of women. If you've got a gold award, you'll probably hardly have any women at all. So the evidence suggests that EDI does nothing to get rid of the real problems, but what it does do is create new legal compliance problems that damage people's academic freedom.
And these universities are spending hundreds of thousands of pounds. I believe the figures that we look at is about £450,000, some of these universities, or even more.
Yep.
So that's a huge, arguably, waste of money, certainly if it has the opposite impact. Now, it's been a few months. Has it been a few months now since the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act has been into play? Is there evidence on the ground that it seems to be working? Because I read a story, I believe, at SOAS, where they were able to, another organisation was able to go in, use that act to stop what are called land declarations, where they were basically doing a conference at SOAS, and if anybody didn't come in and sort of promote decolonialisation, or you didn't address issues of, like if for Israel, for example.
Worse than that. What they required, this group at SOAS, they required that any Israeli academic who attended the conference had to declare that they understood that the land belonged to Palestinians. You know, it's absolutely unbelievable. If you're an Israeli it's practically like demanding that any Israeli academic has to eat pork before they can attend the conference. It's just absolutely outrageous. And fortunately, SOAS has put back on that, so that people can now attend the conference without making these land declarations. And I think you're absolutely right. That is driven by those changes. Also, I think that the work that... So this report was done by Alumni for Free Speech, and they've been really pushing on this issue of diversity statements in job applications, and they've had real success, actually, in getting universities to get rid of them. So I think we are beginning to see some progress there. But there is still a real problem that universities still have these enormous EDI teams that they've created, and they've hired activists over the past decade, and they just don't know what to do with them anymore. We've got people, insisting on promoting LGBTQ plus allyship, for example, and that isn't the purpose of EDI. So universities really need to rethink what they're doing there. So I would suggest that they should stop focusing on equality, diversity and inclusion as we've known it, and start going back to the basics of equality law compliance. So I think they should just rebrand equality law compliance, maybe move it into the legal compliance section, take it out of HR, and really rethink. I mean, frankly, they need a proper reorganisation. There have got to be redundancies, let's be honest, because there are people there who don't understand equality law, who've been hired entirely because of their interest in activism. Well, there's no value in that role. They're not doing anything useful. They're damaging the university. They're damaging genuine diversity. And so universities have really got to grasp that. And the first place they can start with that is, the problem's straightforward, isn't it? We know that gender-critical women are being discriminated against in universities. Just stop talking to the people who created that problem. So I mentioned before this Athena Swan scheme. That was created by a group called Advance HE, and we should just stop talking to Advance HE.
But how realistic is that? Certainly if they are institutionally captured, I mean, I understand, and at least now there is a tool to be able to hold the universities to account. But if they still are not acknowledging that there's a problem themselves, are they really going to take that kind of action?
Well, I think that senior managers do know there's a problem. I think senior managers are beginning to understand this, but they've hired this huge raft of middle managers who don't appreciate the problem because they've been hired to create the problem. They've been hired because they're willing to swear their allegiance to all these diversity statements. So senior managers really need to take action. And senior managers can do it very easily. So the Athena Swan Award, senior management can just say, we're not applying for that anymore. This award, the Athena Swan scheme, is what produced the template document that resulted in Sussex getting a £585,000 fine because of what happened to Kathleen Stock and the discrimination she experienced. So they produced this template. Now, why are universities still talking to people who are going to get them a £585,000 fine? It's clearly insane. And they just have to realise that the people they've been going to and looking to for advice are not the right people. They need to go to people who understand equality law. They need to go to people who are interested in academic freedom and who are interested in academic values. The people who've gone around trying to silence other people, trying to suppress argument, they've done universities no favours and they should have no place in the university.
Well, these sound like incredibly reasonable and easy solutions to implement. Let's see if they actually do it. So GB News has reached out to the University of Greenwich and is waiting for a response. But on their website, they said their EDI makes their university culture a more equitable and inclusive place for students, staff and our wider community. Let's have a big round of applause. I don't know what to call you, Doctor or John.
John's
John,
good.
just John. Coming up after the break, we have Nicole Lampart discussing the recent Maccabi Tel Aviv developments, and also she lists all the ways that Israel and Jews have been cancelled in this culture that we live in. See you in 2 minutes.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Flossie, how do you think your peers would react if, from now on, they were never, ever allowed to bring their phone into school?
Well, I think the big thing is really, I went to school yesterday
after obviously doing BBC News. And surprisingly to me, all of my friends were saying, look, we completely agree with you. You're so totally doing the right thing. Obviously, it is a very sensitive topic. You know, obviously, I'm going to have people saying, stop what you're doing.
Don't take my phone away from me.
I would hate myself if I was in primary, secondary school. But realistically, the thing is, now I'm coming to realise I really wish I just didn't have a phone.
Yeah.
I am addicted to my phone now, I will admit that. I really wish I wasn't. So hopefully as well, if phones are banned in secondary schools, parents usually buy them for secondary school because everyone gets them. So hopefully that will stagger, you know, when parents buy their kids' phones, which may break, you know, the level of addiction.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I didn't have a phone, I really wish I didn't, because, you know, I keep on saying to myself, where would I be now if I didn't have a phone?
You said that people are now talking to each other on the bus because your school has moved to a stricter ban.
So my school is now completely smartphone free on anywhere where the school has a duty of care. So, yeah, it was really surprising to see kids, you know, talking and chatting while
because normally they would text each other or they'd be on the
staring at their phone.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, I do hope you're very successful because it's such an important campaign. Will, or Ewing and Flossie, thank you so much.
Why can't they just take a stand? They've done it in Australia.
It might help with the
They've done it in Australia.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, after a secret ballot in Geneva last Thursday confirmed Israel's place at the Eurovision Song Contest, it was a reaction afterwards that caused a storm. Spain, Ireland and the Netherlands have boycotted the upcoming event, with objections mainly relating to Israel's war in Gaza. But with a ceasefire achieved and the war in the past, is it not surely time to put the politics aside and just let the music speak for itself? When you tie this to the BDS movement in academia, the ban on the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from attending their match with Aston Villa, concerts with Israeli musicians, does this not all amount to an all-consuming attempt to cancellation of the Jewish state and, by default, Jews? Now, to discuss this, I'm joined by the writer and journalist Nicole Lampert. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you.
First of all, I have to say, Mazel Tov. You just won an award. Pete Newborn Award is a hero fighting anti-Semitism, and you've just won an award for. So you are the queen of fighting anti-Semitism. So
I am.
Mazel
Crown
Tov
me.
for that.
Yeah.
So you wrote, and now you're here, straight back into the fight, because you wrote a piece in the Telegraph this week, which basically, for the first time I've seen it, outlined what the last 2 years of madness and the cancellation of Israel, but not just Israel and Israelis, but also British Jews as well.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it was just a tiny snapshot, because there was so much more. Each of the different sections that I looked at, from politics to military to arts, they could have all been a page by themselves. So it's just a small idea. And particularly, you know, like arts and culture, that's the touchy-feely, wokest area. And that's the one where the cancellations have been the nastiest, and they have attacked British Jews. For example, comedians, I'm sure you know, Rachel Krieger and Philip Simon, they are two British Jewish comedians. They're not Israeli at all. And at Edinburgh this summer, they were cancelled, and the venue gave them a week's notice. By that time, their flyers had been printed and everything, and they were told that they couldn't come because staff felt unsafe. You know, thankfully, the Edinburgh Festival managed to find them other venues, but of course, it was far from perfect. And actually, when Rachel, before she'd even started, people had tried to burn out her image outside one of the theatre venues where she was.
This is comedy, then, like you say, music. There's a band, they got their gig cancelled.
Oy Vavoy.
Oy Vavoy,
yeah.
Cancelled in Bristol. I believe the venue has since apologised. So examples like that suggest that some people go, well, we're just protesting as a way of protesting what they would argue is the genocide in Gaza.
Yeah.
I personally think that's anti-Semitic to accuse Israel of committing a genocide, but it was obvious that it blends and blurs into just Jew hate. That's the way it seems to be, certainly in cases like that you just said.
Yeah, well, I think the genocide word is a really important one to look at, in that Jews, but anyone who knows anything about the Holocaust knows what a genocide looks like. It's putting people, anyone, lining them up in pits, shooting them, it's sending them to gas chambers. It's the deliberate aim to wipe out a group of people. In some ways, it doesn't matter how many, it's the intent. Israel has not shown that intent. It's shown the opposite, in that its army loses the whole idea of surprise by warning people, phoning them, sending leaflets, even dropping tiny little bomblets. They're not really bombs, but they make a noise, saying, we're about to bomb this building. You have a few minutes to get out to be safe. And of course, that's not ideal, but that is not a genocide.
That's war, and you've actually seen the population of Gaza increase over the last 2 years.
Exactly.
So you said you were writing this article, and there were even more examples that you could have drawn to.
Yeah.
Were you depressed about the future for British Jews if this shows so many institutions captured?
Yes, because it's coming from everywhere, and this was the overt cancellation, so the ones we just talked about, but then there's the silent cancellation, which is people not being booked to start with. So, for example, there's a club called the Troxy in East London, and some Haredi Jews, some ultra-Orthodox, they booked it every year. It's very near where they live, and they say that they were told that they were taking no bookings from Jews.
It's very hard to prove that stuff, but it is having an impact, I think, on the community.
Yeah, and it's the same in the publishing world. For example, the award ceremony I was just at, they also gave it an award for Book of the Year, and Eli Sharabi's Hostage won. And his agent had massive trouble getting him an agent, getting him a publishing deal in this country. And this is someone who was the first hostage story. He had a British wife and 2 children who were killed, and he couldn't get a deal.
OK, well, thank you very much for joining us, Nicole Lampart. Please join us in the future. Thank you very much for joining us for Free Speech Nation this week. Stay tuned, though. Brilliant. Alex Armstrong is next. Thank you very much for watching Free Speech Nation. Alex is going to tell us what's on the show now.
Thank you, Josh. Yes, well, all of you at home have been told a big, fat lie about the NHS needing uncapped migration to sustain itself. I'm going to expose that next. And do you remember Angela Rayner? Yeah, well, she's only been gone for a few months, but she's all but confirmed to be coming back. I'm going to be asking why that's happening so quickly. That's coming up after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, a very good evening to you. Hope you've managed to have a lovely weekend, although I'm sure many of us probably retreated to indoor activities at some points today. We've been seeing rain sweeping its way across the UK. It is continuing its journey north-eastwards, heading towards the Northern Isles, so quite a wet evening to come here, but there will be some clearer spells arriving behind that. Another band of showers, though, sweeping their way in from the west. These could be quite heavy with some hail and thunder in the mixture. Underneath all of that, though, it will be a fairly mild night, some of us even holding up in double-digit figures. But for parts of northeastern Scotland, where we have some clearer skies overnight, we may just drop down towards low single figures, maybe just about freezing in some very sheltered rural valleys. We could still see a few rumbles of thunder on that system as it continues through across Monday morning, so do be aware when you are travelling to work. But there will be some brighter, drier intervals moving in behind that as well. Potentially, though, a few outbreaks of rain still lingering for some areas of England and Wales, and generally the cloud will tend to build from the south as we move throughout the day. Any of that sunshine turning hazier, and generally those skies much greyer as we head towards the end of the day. We do hold on to a fairly notable breeze across many areas as well, but temperatures still a touch above average for the time of year. They'll be ranging between 8 and 9 degrees Celsius in the north, 13 and 14 further south. Overnight, though, into Tuesday, our attention will increasingly turn to an area of low pressure that is going to move in from the southwest. This has the potential to bring much more disruption with its quite heavy pulses of rain swinging their way through and some very strong winds, and there are wind and rain warnings issued for parts of Wales, southwest England as well as northwestern England throughout the day on Tuesday. Another wind warning comes into force across the northwest of Scotland for the second half of Tuesday and into Wednesday. There could well be gales, severe gales around at times. Flooding disruption is possible at times, so do stay up to date with the forecast on that.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with, each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing